It's my pleasure in our expert series today to introduce our speaker, Cindy Lin. Cindy is a data scientist and fintech innovator with a background in quantitative finance and a passion for democratizing the financial sector. She began her career in quant roles at Bank of America Merrill Lynch before leading data science efforts at fintech startups. Her current work focuses on leveraging open source and AI tools to streamline investment research. Cindy is also an active member of 100 Women in Finance and the Global Finance Innovation Network, or GFIN, supporting the next generation of financial professionals. Welcome, Cindy.
Hello, Greg, and thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, you've had quite a journey from Carnegie Mellon to Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, then to fintech startups, and now AI research. What was the pivotal moment that first sparked your interest in quantitative finance?
Well, I don't have like a dramatic pivotal moment into quantitative finance. It's just a natural transition for me. So I am Taiwanese. I grew up in a very traditional Asian family, so we are taught to study hard, and that's also the way to be responsible for ourselves. So through a whole process, I just really enjoy learning and studying. And as a student, I figured out that I really like math and I'm pretty good at it. And at the same time, my dad is a business owner. So growing up, he taught us the importance of knowing how to run a business, understanding finance. And that's how I just get to be really curious about both finance and math. And when it was about time for me to go to college, I decided to major in commerce and actuarial science just because of this. So I just want to follow what I love and to learn more about the subjects I'm interested in. A few years later, I had a chance to go back to business school. It was a huge debate at that time between doing an MBA or a master degree because a master degree tend to be a lot more specialized. But then at the end of the day, I really wanted to combine my passion for math and finance. So I decided to go for a master degree. And that's how I came across Carnegie Mellon. And I got accepted to its Master of Science degree in computational finance. And that's how I get started.
Well, can you take us back to your early days then at Bank of America? For example, like what surprised you most about working in institutional quant roles, and how did that foundation shape your approach to finance?
Oh, well, so I think I can share a little bit about how I get started at Bank of America Merrill Lynch as well. So basically, I got it through on-campus recruiting. So for a lot of large US universities, they have like companies who will come on to the campus and to do recruitment. And that's how I got this internship role at Bank of America Merrill Lynch. And then I got a full-time offer afterwards. And it was it was like eye-opening for me because I was placed on the trading floor. And prior to that, I could only see it on TV because like people are moving really fast, yelling at each other. And it was exactly that. Like people were talking and yelling at each other because every second is about making millions of dollars or losing millions of dollars. So it was a very exciting and very challenging environment for me to be in. So I was all excited. I was there to learn and just learn from the best traders like on the trading floor. And then a few years passed. I was at Bank of America Merrill Lynch for 6.5 years. And I was still learning a lot out of trading environment. But then I realized outside the trading environment, everything moves really, really slow. It's really hard to introduce a new change in a large financial institution. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to like pivot to fintech so I can make a larger impact. But I think my time at Bank of America Merrill Lynch, it really just shaped the foundation of my career because not traditional quant learn to code to perfection. It will take time to do the perfect job, but on the trading floor, you don't have the luxury to do that. Every time when an issue happens, you have to resolve it within seconds, or or the team would potentially lose a lot of money. So I've learned to hack. So it is okay to hack. It's okay to even hard code the model. As long as you can make the model run at a moment, it will be okay. So it kind of just like change the way I work. And it really helped me to pivot to startup because I'm really used to like really fast-paced environment and hacking and just to get things out.
Well, you mentioned pivoting. You certainly did that when you went from the world of traditional finance in New York and Hong Kong to a startup culture in San Francisco. That's a different ecosystem. What drove that decision, and what would you think is the biggest culture shock?
I think that time, I think it was one of the pivotal moment as well. So I was very fortunate when joined Bank of America Merrill Lynch. I I I have this great manager. He is a great mentor for me. So he's a really successful trader, and so working for him is really like amazing. He kind of showed us all of like his team members from the different kind of politics, so we can focus on just like our own work. So, and he used to work in Japan, so he understands how to work with people with multiple, like different cultural backgrounds. So, he was really helping me to find a niche that I'm good at and that I could help him with. So, the whole time at Bank of America Merrill Lynch, I worked for him. I work with him on building the US dollar swap curve, and then I did the euro dollar swap curve for him. And then afterwards, when he got a project in China, I moved to Hong Kong to help him out. And the reason I decided to leave, it's just because I feel I wasn't learning much anymore. So I think when we become so specialized on something, it's really hard to do something, to learn something else, or to try different things within a large organization. He was a great mentor for me, but then if I moved to a different team, like it wouldn't be as convenient for him because he knew I was the best person to do that particular job for him. And and that was one of the reasons I decided to leave. It was a big decision because I knew that if I stayed there, it would still be a very lucrative finance career down the road. But then I realized that if I stay there, I wouldn't be able to learn the latest technology or learn about the latest new like news research. So that's how I decided to move. And I took the risk that time. I thought if I'm moving away from Hong Kong, like instead of going back to New York, I should try a new city. And that's how I landed in San Francisco. And it was definitely very different. San Francisco is a big city, but it's very different from New York. So New York is much more traditional, like the traditional sectors are finance and law. So it's a lot of much more traditional, a lot of rules around like how things could be done. But in San Francisco, it's mainly driven by tech. So people are appreciate innovations, and there's no stupid ideas because you walk on the street, you probably run into like 10 startup founders. So it was very exciting for me that time because you can just talk about any crazy ideas and people are receptive and are willing to like just like give you feedback and work with you. And so at the end of the day, it turned out San Francisco is much a better fit for my personality, and I have been here, I think since like 2018 and ever since.
Well, I can see that passion you have for learning and growth and how you were very well mentored by this manager. And yet you still were interested in the technical tools. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Now you're even focused on AI tools for that investment research. Can you give us an example of an AI tool or technique that completely changed how you approach a problem that you used to solve manually?
Okay, because I think one example I have to say is just basically I don't consider myself a very good like developer. So unlike my classmates at Carnegie Mellon at that time, a lot of people have developer background. They major in computer science before they started program. But for me, I was a business major and I literally just learned how to code within that 1.5 year program. So I don't feel my code is like production level of that solid. My code is good for doing the research, and once the research done, I normally pass on that the research effort to the quant developers, and they will make that production ready. But nowadays, with the coding assistants, I feel my weakness is no longer a weakness anymore. I can still do my Jupyter notebook. I can still write my research code, and I can ask a coding assistant to turn my Jupyter notebook into something production ready. And I can ask the coding assistant to make my code more efficient and more productive. So I think this is one way it actually give me a lot more confidence on my research and my code. I feel much better to share the results as well down the road. So for me, I think this is really revolutionary. The second piece is English is my second language. So normally it's a lot of effort for me to read like research paper or new like newsletters or different kind of articles. So it'll take a lot of more time for me compared to like a native English speaker. But nowadays with the AI tools, with the LLM out there, it becomes much easier for me. I can ingest a lot of information more efficiently using those tools. So
Well,
these
yeah,
are, I
I
think, the
like
two things
this.
I,
Yeah, I
yeah.
like this approach to efficiency and using the tools. Let's get tactical.
Mm.
You use Notebook LM and Elicit for summarizing key literature from academia. Can you walk us through an example workflow for how you stay on top of this research?
Okay, so I can just briefly give a brief introduction about these tools as well. So for Notebook LM, it is tool developed by Google. It is great in a way that a lot of times when we talk about the type models or GPT models, we talk about hallucination. But using Notebook LM, we don't need to worry about that anymore. So it is powered by Gemini, but we can provide our own resources. So we can put in the resources in, say, research paper, PDF. You can do YouTube video. You can put in URL. You can put in all of the resources that you have into this particular Notebook LM notebook. And then and then they have a chat feature too. Then the chat model, you can ask questions, and the Gemini will only answer the questions based on the resources that you provide. So it is so it kind of reduces the risk of hallucination, and that's why I like about that. And it is a very powerful tool for students as well. For example, it has like an FAQ feature. So for students want to, for example, study for a particular subject, they can put all the like lecture notes in there, and the FAQ feature will create some kind of FAQ. So it will be similar to like a practice exam. So they can practice based on those questions. And I think it's really helpful for students as well. So that is one tool I use like on a daily basis. And the other one is Elicit. It's like a search engine for research papers. You can search by natural language, ask a question, it will find relevant research papers. And within that, it will also tell you, okay, you can summarize the methodology of the paper, and you can even summarize and give you like what data sets are required for that if you want to replicate that particular research paper. So I get a lot of my research idea through Elicit. And then the other one, there's a lot of newsletters I subscribe to, and I will normally compile those resources and feed that into Notebook LM to start my initial round of research. So I think with using these tools, it really streamline my research workflow and make myself much more efficient.
Wow, that story that you're telling now about efficiency in the research, could you give a similar example in coding, like with Coding Copilot?
Sure, I think that there are a little bit different way to look into that. I think we are as a quant, as a data scientist, we work a lot with data. And writing traditional codes for data extraction, data cleaning, those are really natural. But sometimes they are just different things that we need to do to kind of complete a research workflow. For example, I need to scrape the web to get certain information, but it's pretty time consuming for people who are not familiar with that. You need to understand HTML, you need to find the keywords that you're looking for. But nowadays, instead of going to Stack Overflow to find different kind of like posts and copy and paste over to hoping things will work, I just need to ask like the coding assistant, coding copilot, okay, I want to scrape this particular web page from this particular website. Can you do that for me? I want to find this particular keywords. And nowadays, the coding tools, the coding copilot can just do it for me. So it really save a lot of time in this way. And the other thing I can say is debugging. A lot of times, debugging can be 2 minutes to 2 or 3 days. It really depends. And sometimes it's just really hard to find the error because you are the person who write the code. And the coding copilot, they can help with debugging with like effortlessly. So it really make the process a lot easier. For people like me, I'm really bad at writing comments as well. I think the LLM, they writes good comments down the road. So I think these are all the tools, the AI tools that can help to improve the efficiency.
Well, these last examples you gave are well defined, summarizing literature or coding well defined problems in a language. But can you give a concrete example, let's say, of a complex workflow that
Mhm.
you've automated where the tools might be prompt engineering and multi-agent systems?
Okay, so I think one thing I'm still working on is rapid prototyping research-based investment strategies. I got this inspiration from the world famous Andrew Ng. He's a founder of DeepLearning.ai. So he did the opening talk at the Snowflake Dev Day this year. And he talked about last year he did the same talk. He talked about agent, and this year he talked about vibe coding. He talked about rapid prototyping. He think that vibe coding enabled everyone to code, to rapidly prototype and test new ideas. And that's true. So that's how I just have this idea. It's like, okay, if I can just use AI tools, I do prompt engineering or any kind of ways to like streamline the first step of investment research, that could be really helpful. And the way to look into that is like prompt engineering turned out to be more like an art than science, in my opinion. You need to have very defined prompt to get the information you need. And it's something I'm researching on a lot. Like, for example, Entropic, they just like release, they open source their prompts they use for their deep research feature. They have the prompt they use to create their lead agents. They have the prompt they use to create like the sub agents. And those prompts, they literally look like a huge essay. So this is something I'm looking into about like, oh, how do I use the prompt, a very efficient prompt to get the results I need? I need a prompt for, say, summarize a research paper. I need a prompt for planning and creating the methodology, and also the one that create a good backtesting solution. So this is something I'm looking into. And in terms of multi-agent, I think it's very similar in the way that it can help to streamline a lot of flows. So for example, I think BlackRock just rolled out is one AI tool is for fundamental equity research. They call it a virtual investment analyst. So it's basically an agent. It can help to process a lot of text-based documentation for investment research purposes. So this is one good example about how to use AI tools, AI agents to help to become more efficient.
As we use these tools, they're working through tax documents, as you mentioned, or
Mhm.
generating data. That's a controversial issue for some
Mhm.
people because there are quality issues that may exist between synthetic data and real data. So
Mhm.
what do you think about those trade-offs, and what advice could you give as to where you draw the line on their use and quality?
Okay, so I think synthetic data is definitely up and coming, and it's still controversial. And this is a lot of things we need to learn about it. And I think one way for me to use it, just from my opinion, is like for traditional risk management modelings, like that requires a lot of simulations. I think the synthetic data is really helpful there. It can generate like various different kind of scenarios that that traditional model couldn't do. And then potentially we can catch a lot more of those black swan events that kind of sway the market. So that's one way to look into that. And the other way to look into using synthetic data is, for example, for a lot of financial securities who don't have a lot of like history or enough like pricing information, we can use synthetic data for that. One example is cryptocurrencies. I think for the most liquid ones, Bitcoin, Ethereum, we have enough data set to work with. But to build a model, we need a lot more, say, cryptocurrency, like a lot more coins to work with. And traditionally, a lot of coins, they don't have enough historical data to work with. So we can use the machine learning to generate synthetic data for that reason. The other one is private asset valuation. Like it's really hard to value private assets because there's not enough information out there. Particularly, for example, for early stage startup, it's really hard to evaluate to come up with valuation for that. And I think synthetic data could be really helpful in for doing that as well. However, I think there's always a trade-off, and I think it really depends on the use case. Um, for example, if we can, I think real data is very expensive as well. So I think one concern is the cost. If you I would have to say I would advocate for using as much real data as possible, because they tend to they are like the ground like the truth, right? So this is better to use as much as we can. But if you are like a rising manager, you don't have enough resources, I think it's okay to use synthetic data to test out your investment strategies before you commit a resource into it. So it really depends on the use case, about how synthetic data can be used and applied into in different ways.
Yeah, I agree because if data is from an exchange traded market, at spot, like stocks,
Mhm.
it's more plentiful and
Yeah.
it's expensive than, say, uh, rates data that's over the counter, or even if it's derivatives,
Mhm.
where it might be very fractional. There might be a lot of different strikes or
Mhm.
maturities. So I think this might be an opportunity for AI. How would you use AI, let's say, to, if you had access to more less expensive data, to somehow get you better access to that more expensive or less liquid data?
Mhm. I think one way is definitely we talked about earlier, using AI to, I would just use, let's say, rising managers, the investment managers as an example. They can use, if they have any kind of investment strategy ideas they need to test about, they can, first of all, try to find whatever open source data they have. And if those are not enough, they can generate synthetic data for that reason to get them started. The other reason way to look into that is that because of these, there's a lot of affordable data providers nowadays in the market. One way they can look for that solution, but you also push for changes within the large data providers as well. I can't speak of for now, but I know a few years ago, a few data providers they start to provide it's a subscription-based model, but they have this kind of Jupyter notebook environment. It allows company to access their all of their data set, but it has to be within that particular Jupyter notebook environment, so people can test things out, knowing which data set work before they commit and purchase that data. So I think that because of the generation of synthetic data, because of the AI, there are a lot of more resources out there, and it kind of help to push the larger data vendors and institutions to pivot and to innovate and to provide new product offerings as well.
So you've discussed several good cases of AI for summarizing research and providing code, simulating data that's either non-existent or expensive. With all these AI tools in place, what human elements remain irreplaceable?
So I am a huge advocate of AI with a human in the loop. I think this is particularly important for say industries such as healthcare and finance, because for example, if the model recommends a wrong shirt to buy on Amazon, it's not detrimental. But for healthcare, if we misdiagnose the disease is a life and death type of situation. And for finance, it's the same thing. If the model recommends the wrong thing to buy or I recommend to sell at the wrong moment, it can impact someone's financial health significantly. So I think for financial sectors, it's definitely good to have like a human in the loop to make the final decisions. So it could be different kind of AI tools providing different kind of outputs, but the output would be fed into this particular person making the decision at the end of the day. I think that would be the better way to go in terms of for financial sector. One example I have is I think because finance are also highly regulated, I know that for mortgage application process, um, you need to provide regular every for every loan approved, we need to provide a reason to the regulators of why that loan is approved. If we just simply run an AI model, machine learning model, like we don't have that concrete reason that can be provided to the regulator. So that's why I think this kind of like process, AI with a human in the loop can be really helpful to mitigate this kind of regulation requirement as well.
Well, I think that paints a nice broad picture of how AI can be used
Mhm.
in this industry of financial engineering and investment research.
Mhm.
So, and it's very commendable that you've done your training in finance all before that happened, but have very much embraced and sought out these AI tools. So if we think about the future of the quant role, what
Mhm.
would you say are some of the important characteristics of a modern quant that would have them use and embrace the tools of AI that you've used while still respecting the human in the loop element?
I think for the future of quants, they need to work differently compared to traditional quants. I think traditional quants, a lot of times we kind of take a backseat in terms of actions. We work with portfolio managers or traders and basically trying to answer requests, and that's how we actually get started with a new project. But I think for the future of Quant, we need to be a lot more proactive. We need to learn about not just a small piece of the whole business. We need to learn about the business in general, and with all the AI tools in hand, we can quickly prototype and test out new ideas and constantly propose new ideas and new solutions to the senior management. And the future of Quant, they need to be interdisciplinary. They need to learn about finance. They need to learn about data science and also the latest advancement in terms of technology and scientific research. I think these all the learnings from different kind of areas can translate very well into innovative ideas within the finance sector. The future of quant need to be AI native, understand how to use different AI tools. The As I talked about earlier, Andrew Ng, he also in that talk at Snowflake Dev Day, he actually mentioned that he would hire a junior employee who is very aware of how to use different AI tools for to solve problems over a 20-year-old veteran with no AI knowledge. So this is coming like AI becomes a part of the requirement for employment. Another example is Canva, the company, the star recently announced that for their developer interview, they're adding a new session. They are testing AI skills, AI coding. So in addition to traditional developer interview, they add this new session that wants to make sure that people learn and people understand how to use AI coding to improve their efficiency. So I think the future quant, the role is changing, and we just need to constantly evolving and learning down the road.
Well, I love this idea of evolving because, as you mentioned, finance, like many fields, has become a lot more interdisciplinary, and even things like climate science are part of the impact on risk management or portfolio selection. Can you share an example of how a breakthrough outside finance, like climate science or NLP,
Mhm.
influenced your approach to a financial problem?
I think it just make me more open-minded and open to different kind of new resources. And I think there are two different aspects in touch base. One is generation of new data because of the new technology like computer vision, different kind of machine learning methods. We have a lot of new alternative data sets showing up. Um, One example is last year I went to the San Francisco Data Summit, and there are a lot of data vendors, smaller data vendors, not the traditional large shot like S&P Global, like the smaller ones, but they are selling very interesting data set, and all thanks to the advance of technology. For example, there's an app company, their users would just take a snapshot of their receipt and just save it down to the app. And they will be able to turn that into like a data set using computer vision and additional tools to record all the transactional data and package that as a data set for financial analysis. So that's one example. Another example is there's company tracking the online marketing spend for large financial, not for large companies. So like Procter and Gamble, like Unilever, how much they spend on online in terms of marketing, and they can use that. They sell that, they package that as a data set, and sell that for people for fundamental like research companies to know and understand how those large companies will perform down the road. So these are all new data being generated thanks to the breakthrough in technology in different outside finance, I have to say. And climate science, I think it can be a very good inspiration for synthetic data generation. Traditionally, we all know we don't have so many extreme weather events happening around the world. So for climate science, need to use synthetic data to model those extreme weather events. And I think these kind of methodology and the analysis can be easily translated to finance when we try to model or create data for say for financial assets who traditionally don't have a lot of data to work with. So it's definitely really exciting to see there's so many different ways and different data being generated just using the latest technology.
Wow, that's a lot of different data. I mean, you have climate impacts, AI disruptions, geopolitical risks, as we know. What would you tell a student today to focus on if in financial engineering that's different from when you started out then?
I think when I first started out, I think it's good to go very niche. You just find a niche that you are good at, and you just stay in that niche. And I think you'll be all set for the next 20 years. I think that was the way it was when I first get started. But I think nowadays with so many new tools, new technology is no longer the case. We need to, first of all, continuously learning and not just learning like finance related knowledge is anything. If the students, if interested in certain different aspect of different completely different area, it's okay too. They just need to learn it, and they never know one day down the road, even though what they learn may not be really relevant in terms of finance, in terms of what they are doing now, but probably a few moments later, a few years later, they will come out to be really handy. So whatever things they are curious about, just learn about it. Just don't hesitate and don't worry about like, okay, they are not relevant, but eventually they will be relevant. So that's one thing I'll have to I cannot stress enough. Just continuous learning and don't be afraid of making mistakes as well, because you learn fast. There are so many information, so many knowledge that you need to digest. Sometimes there'll be mistakes, but just be comfortable with making mistakes. Lastly, with all the changes, we need to move fast, but we have to be really responsible as well. This is a quote from Andrew Ng as well. I say nowadays we need to move fast and be responsible for the changes that we propose. So I think these are a few things that I can just like recommend the current student to like to be aware of.
Well, that responsibility would involve stakeholders, and that involves a lot of collaboration and hard decisions for leaders and open
Mhm.
communication. So it sounds like soft skills will still matter, perhaps even
Yes.
more. Now, AI is handling the technical heavy lifting. So how do you see the human side of the quant role evolving?
I think it's definitely the soft skill will become much more important. I think traditional quant roles, it might be 90% of coding and 10% of communication. But nowadays, like I think it will be probably at least 50% of coding and 50% of communication because you can produce results much faster using the AI solutions. And you have to spend more time communicating the results. And it's not just about communicating the result to technical audience. You need to learn to communicate the result with a non-technical audience as well. So it's definitely getting much more important to have the soft skills because you the coding part, the technical part is being taken away by AI. So definitely for the future of the quant is much more is getting much more important to be able to communicate efficiently.
And that communication can take the form of complex models and dashboards or
Hmm.
easy to read reports of things that might have been more complex. So it sounds like finance as a whole is becoming more accessible and innovation driven. Uh,
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
yeah,
So
I mean, skeptics may argue it's an exclusive club, but
Mhm.
what evidence do you see that there is democratization happening?
I think there are definitely still some exclusive shops. For example, I think for in the data analytics space, I think there's still a lot of hedge funds who are which are very exclusive, and Bloomberg is like the top-notch analytic tools. I think it's still the best of the best. Like it's really hard to beat that. But they just as a startup, as a former startup employees, we know like they are really exclusive. It's they never negotiate the price. So it's just really hard to get access to those kind of top-notch tool. But nowadays, I think things have started to change a little bit. There are a lot of more open source and affordable solutions because of the fintech innovations. I think there are open source data set, for example, traditionally for on the equity side, you need to purchase a security master to map to map the financial securities across different systems. And that the CUSIP, the CEDO, those are very expensive to start. But Bloomberg open source their Figi code. So that's one example about how the they are trying to like there are a lot more open source solutions out there. The Figi code is free and open access, so you can try to use Figi code to map instead of having to purchase like very expensive security master. And there are a lot of affordable data vendors. Um, at my previous startup, I worked with like Polygon, Intrinio, Zinc9. They are like all like new fintech innovators, and they are able to provide like very affordable solutions for financial pricing for financial securities. They are also not as amazing as Bloomberg, but they are like open source analytic platform as well, like OpenBB and Coifin. They are like those market monitors, very similar to Bloomberg, but much more affordable, and some are even free to use. So there's just a lot of innovations happening in the space. And I think because the cost is coming down, so it really helped to democratize finance and make financial knowledge much more accessible to, say, everyday investor or to like rising managers in this way.
So open source programs and software, uh, availability perhaps to access data on tiered levels where it might be much less expensive or even free. These
Mhm.
sound like principles that are helping to democratize the industry. Are there some other dimensions that you see, and maybe if we can, which one you think would have the most impact?
Okay, so I think there are different aspects. The first one is I think eventually down the road that for the everyday investors, they will have access to high quality institutional level of financial level type of financial advice, and the financial advice will be hyper personalized. I think that's one pillar, one aspect. The other one is we talk about open source solutions, AI tools. It really helps rising managers or like solo advisors to be more competitive with compared to their like large institutional peers. The third one we talk about how the financial knowledge as well, like how we can democratize financial education and make it more accessible to students around the world. And I think WorldQuant University is definitely the pioneer in this. Um, because of the regulation, I think the hyper personalization of financial advice for everyday investors won't happen anytime soon. But for rising managers and smaller shops, I think they will see a lot of those come in because things are much cheaper for them to get started, and they can potentially become much more competitive compared to their peers before.
Well, yeah, I like those terms in this world of agentic AI, financial advisors, or the hyper personalized investor experiences. I mean, what would an investor's experience look like in this future?
I think down the road, there will be a one-stop shop like someone's individual's financial need. Traditionally nowadays, we need to hire the accountant. We need to, for tax related issues. We need to hire like a financial advisor for investment piece. You need to get an insurance as a broker for insurance related purchase. So you need to work with like multiple financial personnel for someone's financial health. But I think down the road, with the assist of AI solutions, we can just have this one person or this one AI solution that can potentially just address all the needs. So we can only just go to this one person, and it will help us to create a well-rounded plan that covers every aspect of someone's financial health. And it can even do more. I think it can not only just like cover someone's financial health as of now, they can look into, say, the future. They can help to plan for this person's financial health down in 20 years or 30 years. They can look into how to plan for milestones like marriage, having the kids, and they can even provide some kind of risk or scenario analysis. For example, if a dual income family, what happens if they lose one income stream, and how would the finance look like? I think with the help of AI, we will be able to envision that happening down the road. But of course, we need to have a lot of innovation in the regulation front as well.
Yeah, because these tools are not necessarily used properly by everybody. I bet
Mhm.
there's managers, advisors, there's certainly doctors and lawyers misusing these. So for up and coming financial advisors, let's say, trying to use these open source or AI tools, what's the biggest mistake you see them making, and what should they focus on doing better?
I think definitely we talk about be responsible and just make sure as a finance professional, we need to always stay true and be responsible for all the financial information, knowledge, or advice we share with the customers. That's one thing to look into, just purely for the finance aspect. And just in general, I see a lot of challenge integrating different kind of AI tools, especially for a lot of users who don't have the technical backgrounds. I heard people telling me that they kind of they are utilizing like 10 different AI tools. So there are 10 different kind of outputs, but they don't know how to integrate those outputs together like in one place. So I think down the road, there are so many different tools out there. Besides generating the outputs or to make our life more efficient, we also need to figure out how to integrate all the results together and to maximize the efficiency. I think that's one thing that I see a lot there are friends telling me they use this AI tool and they have to feed the output from A to B, and sometimes it doesn't really work that well.
That sounds promising. I mean, do you think there's some development that hasn't happened yet to hit mainstream that you're looking forward to in AI?
Yes, I think one thing that I talked about earlier is the hyper personalization of financial like advice or financial help. That I think we need the help with the regulation to make that happen. The other piece is I think agentic AI. I think of course there are a lot of startups I know that are working in the agentic AI space for financial say for investment for financial advice. But it's the same thing I think with the regulation. We have a lot of rules we need to follow just per the regulation. So it will take some time for that to come to become a reality.
Well, that's very interesting because, hearing you discuss your training in financial engineering, which was also my training, we were taught to be precise to get the
Mhm.
specific option answer. At worst, you're getting option bounds around a price, but ideally, you'd get the one unique answer to avoid no arbitrage. And then
Mhm.
here you are learning all these AI tools where it's a different set of risks because you're taking experimentation and you have to use assessment and try various methods, even in generating data. So you are a risk taker, which is great. Just I'm wondering if there's a career decision that seemed risky when you did it, but it turned out exactly right for you.
I think that could be the decision when I decided to leave my previous manager in Hong Kong and just move to San Francisco. I think it was like one of the probably the largest risks I took because I really walk away from a very lucrative career. But I was fortunate in the way that I realized that money doesn't really buy happiness very early because like when I first get started out of school, all the classmates we all start at the same time, so it's so easy to optimize for money. You just think, well, we are competitive among each other. Who was the one who will get promoted first and who got the most bonus at the time? And it was a really exhausting process. And very soon, a few years later, I realized that it doesn't really buy any happiness. I could just go out and buy a very expensive handbag, and I was only happy for two days the most. So I was fortunate enough to learn about that. So nowadays I optimize for happiness and for life experience. So I'm currently reading a book called Die with Zero. So it's basically talking about the same thing as well. You need to optimize for your happiness, for your life experience, not for like money at death. So you could just save a lot of money down the road, but when you hoping that down the road when you retire, you can go rock climbing. But when you are much older, your body probably wouldn't be able to do that anymore. So the importance is to be happy, enjoy, and have a really great life experience, and have no regret. So this is how I'm gonna say that. Even though it was a big decision at that time, but looking back, I think it's the right decision because I'm much more happier now.
It's interesting how you pose that problem because it's an optimization problem
Yes.
who has uncertain inputs. That's not a model you would have ever learned in financial engineering, but in a way can be contextualized in AI. It's a heuristic. And so,
Mhm.
ironically, AI itself could be giving us those answers to
Yeah, I will have to
that
say it
you're
will be really interesting to see if down the road they can be like a model for that as well, like quantifying everything, the happiness and different kind of inputs and to help people to optimize for their life.
it could start out by AI creating a features and benefits of decisions or a SWOT analysis, and
Mhm.
from there give you at least an explicit set of information from which you can even further base your decision.
Mhm.
So I just enjoy how AI has not only been an area of where you've moved from finance, but have used AI in your career and decision making and to do things. So I just want to thank you so much for your time today and for sharing this journey and insights with us. If people are curious and want to learn more about your work, where can they find you? Because I understand that you have a newsletter.
Yes, I am working on a newsletter. It's biweekly, and I basically share my learnings and research in AI and how I can utilize that for investment research or for any kind of finance related like applications. So it's called Mindful Data by Cindy. It's on Substack, so people can find it there and subscribe from there.
Great. I think we'll put that link somewhere and along with this video. And at this time, I want to say again, thank you so much. This has been a great discussion on my part, and we are very honored to have you as our first speaker in this expert series. So thanks
Um,
again, Cindy.
Thank you so much. I also really enjoyed this experience and the discussion as well. I'm really honored to be here. Thank you so much.